years or 18 months. And it's been one of our most successful ranges. It's so nice to actually meet the person behind it. And it's so nice that you agreed to come tonight and tell us about them. So thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Should I start?
Yes.
And thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everything, Lawrence, that you've done. He's the exclusive distributor of Smellvent in the UK, which is terrific. I'm a very small brand. I'm a medium-sized perfumer, and it's really terrific to come over here and to have the line welcome so much. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks to Michael and
Pleasure.
the wonderful staff here. So, and all of you for coming. It's great to come out and get to talk about myself and my work and my little story of how I became a perfumer. I never had a job where people listened to me talk about it. I never had a job before where people wrote me fan mail, which is terrific. You should get a job like that. I was going to start at the beginning and talk about a couple perfumes that were important to me. The first perfume that I remember is my mother's, which I don't know if many of you remember your mother's first perfume. She's worn the same thing since I was a little boy, which is Paris in the Eau de Parfum, which is a grand lady. She used to wear it. I have like distinct memories of her going out for date night on Saturday night, and thank you. And just the kind of the wafting trail through the house, and her she had this big closet, and she had all this costume jewelry and like just my mother being so glamorous, and it was this really kind of lovely memory of her and the smell that I associated with her and perfume. And so every time I smell Paris, I still love it. I have a bottle in my collection. I have quite a big collection of perfume. And occasionally I spray it, and it's just her. She's tried to wear other things over the years, but it's not my mother. My mother smells of Paris. When I got to be a teenager, she also used to shop at, you call it TK Maxx there, right? So my first perfumes came from TK Maxx, which they were actually not terrible ones. She got me, my first perfume was Eau d'Angevin by Hermes, back when you could buy Hermes at TK Maxx. It was a low point in the house of Hermes. Selling it at TK Maxx. But yeah, it's right next to the rack of Birkins. I'm just kidding. So that was like, and it was kind of a great starter perfume, because it's very sheer, it's very clean, and like for a hormonal teenager, it was kind of like, it was very classy compared to like the mace that they give teenage boys to wear. It's so funny. I was in the airport and there was like a big can of Axe that someone had left in the bathroom, and the whole of the airport bathroom smelled of Axe. Like, it's just toxic. It'll strip paint.
Lynx, sorry, we call it Lynx. Yeah. Just so you know.
Lynx, yes. And yes, so I had kind of like a nice perfume to start, and then there were some kind of missteps, maybe like wanting to be more grown up than I was in Giorgio Beverly Hills, and what else was there? Maybe some like very fresh '90s things, some like mid '90s things. But that was kind of my introduction, and then when I started getting a little bit older and developing some more taste, it was all kind of like mainstream things. It was the '90s, so we had CK1, which was very important. It would come in the jug. You could buy math come out of it, and every teenager I knew wore it. And those kind of clean '90s things like Eau de Sea, which was so
the
much
aquatic things.
The aquatic things, which I have a sensitivity to those. The chemicals in them. Should I talk about chemicals, or is that totally boring?
No.
So the big chemicals, the aquatic chemicals, the one's called Calone, and it literally makes me nauseous. There's another one called Ultra Zure. I gag on them a little bit. It's like, ugh. because they smell of the sea and washed up. I don't like them. But people love them. Aqua di Gio, I think, is still the #1 selling men's fragrance in the world, unfortunately. And so that kind of happened. I Gucci Rush. I love Gucci Rush for men. They don't make that one anymore. Angel for men. That's a good one. A lot of Angel. There's a lot of Angel everywhere. But it was always just kind of like it wasn't that important to me. I mean, I think I have a decent nose. I don't think that I have a special gift. I don't think most perfumers have some sort of genetic abnormality. Most of the time, I think we just know the notes. It's like music in a lot of ways. You can train your nose like you can train your ear. I had a bottle of, should we spray the first one? Yes. Okay. So I was given a bottle of a perfume by Armani called Bois d'Encens, which means incense wood. And it's a very, very dry, spicy. This is not it.
Were you young at this point?
I was 22, maybe 22,
Yeah.
early 20s. This is my version of it. It's a version of a dry incense from my line called Short Fuse. And what it did was, this perfume kind of woke up something in me that made me realize that there were these really interesting perfumes out there that were not like the perfumes that I had been given at the department store, or like that everyone else was wearing. This was, going your way. This is a perfume that kind of pushed the boundaries of what perfume could be for me. And I fell in love with incense. Now, the bottle that I had was about $250 US. Measure that, that's 150 pounds, 125 pounds. And so when I ran out of it, I couldn't really afford to buy another
That's a
one.
lot then.
That's a lot, yeah, 10 years ago, yeah. So what I did was I went online and I looked up if someone made like something like it. I was trying to knock it off. Is there, like sometimes they used to do that, right? But of course there's like this kind of obscure perfume, and I doubt that they've ever sold that much of it anyway. So I found a website. And the website was called Base Notes, which any of you know Base Notes is? Yeah. It was one of the first big kind of perfume forums, message boards. And they said that Comme des Garçons made a perfume that was very, very similar called Avignon. And so I ordered it because it was $60, and I thought, oh, Comme des Garçons is very cool. I had worked in fashion. I was actually a fashion refugee. And so I was familiar with Comme des Garçons, and I thought, well, this is kind of cool. All right, we'll try it. And it showed up very quickly, and I loved it. I was like, oh, this is terrific. It's very, very similar. It's similar to the thing you smelled. It's a spicy, dry incense. It's very sheer. It has a lot of, did I say dry? It's very dry. But then I found out that it was part of a series. Comme des Garçons worked in series, and this was only one of 5 perfumes in this series. And I thought, oh, there's four more. Maybe I should order samples. And the company I ordered from is a store like this in the States called Lucky Sun, and they were happy to send me more samples. And I discovered that Comme des Garçons had actually done 8 series at that point, which blew my mind. It blew my mind that someone was exploring perfume in this way that I didn't ever think that you could do perfume in this way. You could explore concepts. You could make art, basically, instead of just hygiene products, for lack of a better term. And I still think Comme des Garçons has done some incredible work. They really pushed the boundaries in terms of exploring the medium and ingredients, and they did a series based on the color red, which is strange if you think about it. But it was all red ingredients. There's rose and there's rosewood, and but it was exciting and it was different. And I thought, okay, there's this whole other world. And I found all these people who were talking about perfume, and I started reading But there's a perfume, the guidebook here. What happened to that? Which is, if you've never read that book, you should buy a copy, and you can read it cover to cover. It's hilarious. They're very catty.
They are.
I sat at work one day. I had a very dull job sitting in a shop, and I read this book cover to cover, and I would just laugh, and it's hilarious because they review all these different perfumes, and they're so thoughtful and bitchy, and there's just this whole world of people who were thinking and talking and writing about perfume, and I found it mesmerizing. It actually was all I did in my free time. Or actually what I did when I was at work. So I had, my background a little bit, how I got to the shop was, I had been an art major in college, so I studied art and art history and design. I wanted to be a fashion designer. I had worked in New York. I worked for YSL doing windows when I was young, and, which sounds a lot more glamorous than it actually was. I moved to LA and I became a fashion designer, and I designed women's clothing and accessories. I did sunglasses for a while, and I got a little burnout on fashion, and it had been what I'd always wanted to do, but I was kind of disappointed in the reality of it. I still love clothes, and I think clothes are super fun, and I just didn't want to be making clothes. So I ended up being a buyer for this little shoe store and selling shoes. Selling very expensive shoes. And it was 2008. And in 2008, people were not buying very expensive shoes. It was, we had the writer's strike in LA, which was the first blow, because it put half the town out of work. I live in Los Angeles, by the way. Put half the town out of work. And then the next year, the market just crashed. And people were not spending like that. So the business I was working for went out of business. And I was sitting in the shop, blah, 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 with my book. And it had been about 3 years at that point that I had been reading and smelling. And
Hello.
welcome. I'm just getting to the good part. It's all coming together.
Sorry.
So, I was unemployed. It was January, I was unemployed. Happy New Year. What do I want to do? What do I want to be when I grow up? I made a list. Perfume was on the list. Perfume was on the list because that was what I really loved doing. That's what made me very happy. Because I loved it. I loved thinking about it, I loved reading about it. I had a very gluttonous nose. And I just wanted to smell everything and know everything. And I put some more practical things on the list too, because it seemed very impractical. I actually went for an interview at there's a relatively famous perfume house based in Los Angeles, run by a movie producer's daughter. Shall remain nameless. They needed an in-house graphic designer. That was my background. I could do graphic design. We got in a fight about perfume in my second interview. So needless to say, I didn't get that job. I had been tinkering. I had ordered some ingredients, some perfume ingredients, the year prior maybe, and I had tried to make some perfume, and it was terrible. It was just like, ugh.
Can I just ask something? When you say I tried to make some perfume, how did you go about? What did you do?
Right. You want a little more specific? So I had ordered a bunch of aroma chemicals. So those are the synthetics that we use to make perfume. Because I was looking for sandalwood, and sandalwood, we basically used all the sandalwood to make perfume. Like, we've stripped India of its sandalwood. So 99% of perfumes that have sandalwood in them, they use synthetic sandalwood. Because it's way too expensive, and it's actually kind of not very ethical to use the rest of the sandalwood to make it. So I had bought some synthetic sandalwoods to try them. I had also bought some nitro musk, which is the first synthetic musk. It's related to TNT, which is why we call it nitro.